Okay, I think it's live. Okay, yep, we're live. Let me share it to my Facebook. Okay, and we're live, guys. Hi, I'm Nisha Wright with Hoop Scoop, straight from the soul. With Nisha Wright, I have a special guest on today, my dear friend, author, coach, motivator, Heather Macy. How are you doing today, Coach Macy?
Hey, I'm really glad to be here and honored that you would include me here. So straight to the soul, right?
Straight to the soul.
Y'all be easy on me today, but I am a truth teller, so I guess this is live, so we'll do the best we can, right?
Definitely. This is my first one, so hopefully they don't pick at me too bad. But this is my first one, and I just want to say, Coach Macy, I'm honored to have you on my first ever live. And so, just to give a little bit of background about you and I met Coach Macy in 2006. I went to a combine in Greensboro, North Carolina, and Coach Macy was my coach. And so she was a young 26-year-old. I think I was maybe 22 years old, and she was one of the youngest coaches, head coaches in the country at the time at Pfeiffer University. And we hit it off at the combine, and we just continued our relationship, and we've just been friends ever since. So to you, Coach Macy, I just want to say thank you for always being a friend. Thank you for always, being there, being that listening ear. And especially in my younger days when, I had kids that, were having issues with schools, you were always there, to lend a hand, and even were able to recruit, some of my favorites, the Millings, Ebony Fields. And so, you just always been that awesome coach and friend. So I just want to say thank you for that.
No, thank you, because you put me in a whole lot of basketball games. I actually owe you big time. So, the thing about when we met, I mean, we're both, well, let's just say we're about the same age, right? But we'll say it that way. But it's all about like-mindedness. So when me and you met at that combine, it was, you were driven and you were focused and you had an objective. And so I think that that's one thing to always look at, align yourself with people who have that same motivation and that same drive. And then the key, and what I'm so thankful for, is that you and I maintained a friendship. I mean, we're going on 20 years of friendship here.
That's true. So yeah, definitely. Like I said, I appreciate it. And so, for the purpose of this interview that we're doing, or this live that we're doing, is, as many of you know, with the pandemic going on, we were scheduled to have an event with Coach Macy heading it, Coach Atora Umo, Lacole Willingham. We had an event scheduled on April 18th, and when the pandemic hit, we had to postpone that event, of course. And so, to try to come up with, a way of creating something to still kind of come out with the intent what we were trying to do, but just something to just still kind of reach the population that we're trying to reach, which are our female athletes and then their parents, regarding elite performers, things when it comes to recruiting, because a lot of parents, just don't know a lot of things. And being you, Coach Macy, coaching at Division I level, Division II level, JUCO level, just happy to, like I said, just happy to have you. So let's get to it, Coach Macy.
Okay, so glad to be here and talking about elite performance. And I think that I've got an interesting perspective. I want to leave plenty of time for everybody who's got questions. And, one thing that I always say about when I'm answering questions is I'm going to tell you the truth. So don't ask a question that you don't want to know the truth to. But I also want everyone who's listening and going to go back and kind of process all this to understand that when I'm talking about recruiting, I'm seeing it in a holistic way. Because I have been in every single level, my perspective is different. I have great comparison. And I think that's some of the issues. A lot of people are giving advice to young people and they've never walked in those shoes ever. And so they're telling you what they read on Twitter, or they're giving you what they may think with no education behind it. So I hope everybody understands that as I tell you these things, even though it will be direct in my answers, is I'm telling you from the heart and from a place of care, because I want everyone to find the right and perfect place to go to college for a 4-year window, because that 4-year window is it. I've been coaching. This is going into my 20th year as a college coach. Well, players have 4 years to do it. I have 20 years. I'm going to have another 4 years around and be able to go and do it again another 4 years. Players don't have that luxury. So you've got to pick right, and then you need to maximize that period of time. So I know we're not talking about once you get there, but I'm going to say this. That's why in that 4 year period of time while you're there, all the partying and messing around on social media and doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing anyway, you can go do all those things after that 4 year period and then go do it, right? Then go, I don't want you to go and do all those things, but hypothetically, you could go do it with less of the consequences, but that 4 year period of time needs to be a narrowed focus and a streamlined intent to accomplish your goals. Do you want me to just go on about recruiting? I want to go in the right format you want to go, or do you want me to talk about elite performers?
Coach, you can talk about elite performers. You can talk about recruiting. Whatever
you're muted, my girl.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Mm-mm.
You can't hear me?
No, but I'm going to go right into elite performers.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Because I can read your lips. I can't. I think you muted yourself.
I don't know what happened.
Now we're showing our age. Let's stop showing our age. Stop that.
It doesn't say mute
with the technology. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about elite performers. So, I wrote a book, and the book is 2 Feet Forward, right? Everyday Lessons in Leadership. Snag it. There you go. You got your copy. Snag it on Amazon. Okay. Easy read. And it's young people through CEOs have read the book. I've gotten incredible feedback on it because the book is real. The book is telling you the errors that I made, the failures that I have had, because that's what I wished I would know. When I was a 26-year-old head coach, I wish that someone would have said to me, these are the things that are going to come up for you. These are the things that the issues that you may have happen. Okay. And here's how to combat those. And so I really had to learn from a lot of my own mistakes and sometimes learning the hard way. So the book, I talk about emotional intelligence. And in corporate America, the term emotional intelligence is overused. In athletics, it's never used. So most people go, Coach Macy's talking about mindset. She's talking about elite performance. She's talking about emotional intelligence. What is that? Well, what it is it's a secret sauce. It takes whatever your competency is, whatever it is that you as an athlete that God sprinkled on you and said, here's your ability, what God gave you, and it allows you to maximize it 7 to 10%. So if someone said you're going to get a 7 to 10% pay increase, there's no one saying, no, I don't want 7 to 10% pay increase this year. You keep it. If anyone said to you, hey, I can increase your IQ 7 to 10%, no one is saying, no, I don't want that information. But as soon as I'm telling you that we can train you in a way to make your emotional intelligence 7 to 10% more effective and allow you to perform in pressure game-like situations, adults, that's going to be big time meetings, emergency situations. Athletes, you're talking about fourth quarter, balls in your hands, last possession. It's allowing you to be an elite performer in high pressure situations. Now, for the majority of people, they go, okay, I'm intrigued, but it can be complicated. Well, I would tell you that no, these practices are practices that you can do, and coaches can do it, players can do it, and I would encourage parents to do it. So I was certified in emotional intelligence. There's 300 coaches in the country certified in this, and so I take great pride in that. And I utilized these techniques for over 1 year before I implement them with my team. And had I had this earlier on in my career, I've already, we won multiple championships. We've sent kids to the WNBA. What we could have done relative to what we did, which at that point I thought was success, was nowhere close to the level of success I think we really could have had. So I'm going to pose this question to everyone listening: is the game of basketball, mental to physical, what percentage would it be to you? So 90-10, 80-20, 70-30. So I want you just thinking about that. For you, what is the game of basketball? I have never heard anybody give me a percentage to that question that the game wasn't more mental than it is physical. Okay. So if that's the case, what are you doing in a 2-hour practice segment or an hour training segment percentage-wise, mental to physical. And so I'm assuming that that ratio is not the same, because I was a college coach at the highest level, and that ratio was not 90-10. That ratio wasn't even 50-50, okay? So if the ratio of performance, and you believe, is 90% mental and 10% physical, then what we've got is teaching you how to maximize the mental performance. So I'm going to go, what I would like to do is I just like to throw out just a couple little things, right? And the people who are really going, that's what my athlete's been missing. You know what, Mom? Maybe that's what you've been missing as a mom, or maybe that's what you've been missing as a professional. If those are the things that you've been missing, then you can reach out to me and we can get way more in depth in this. I have on coachtube.com, I have a course that talks a lot about EQ and about mindset, which you can get, but I also do some one-on-one individual, and I'd love to do that with you guys. So very quickly, I've got my stick. And when I walk into the gym with this stick, everyone gets very nervous, right? But it is a temperature stick. So let's turn it this way so everybody can see. And so you've got your red, and you've got your yellow, and you've got your green. So the majority of us have a hard time understanding what our emotions are. So something happens, and we may say, you know what, I was mad. I was angry. And so we would call that red. But if you get deeper in it, you really weren't mad and angry. You know what you were? You were embarrassed. You got embarrassed. And I think even myself as a professional, as an adult, I struggle to decide what is that emotion. So it's much easier when you're able to change the language to go, you know what, I'm red. And maybe I haven't sorted through what exactly that is, but I know my heart rate's up. I know my pupils are dilated. And I know that it's a negative, it's cortisol is all that is, right? And cortisol, it's what coaches will talk to you about, negative to positive. And people give you these ratios. Is it 10-1? Is it 12-1? Is it 18-1? I don't know. I will tell you this. The power of cortisol relative to dopamine, in my mind, is 1,000-1 in the ratio of power. That's where, as we get older, women, we're getting all the belly fat around our stomach. It's that cortisol levels of being really, really high. If you look at pictures of me in live in-game coaching situations, there's not one where my pupils aren't dilated. That's when you're seeing the coach in the newspaper and they've got like crazy eyes. Well, it's because they are coaching in the red. And elite performers do not coach in the red. Your amygdalas are closed, and you cannot make decisions when you're in the red. So if you call a timeout and you really can't figure out, coach, which play you should run to get the game-winning shot, and you stumble through it in a timeout, and your team goes back out, they don't run the play, they miss the shot, you lose, and you're upset, and you go home and you rewatch the film and you say to yourself, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we run that? Well, coach, you can't be an elite performer when your amygdalas are closed, you're in the red, you're having physical symptoms that, by the way, if you have these physical symptoms, they last 4 hours. Okay, what basketball game do you go to that you have 4 hours to recover? You don't. I'll say this to the parents listening. You're driving to work. You get a flat tire and you are in the red. You've got a flat tire. One, you can't afford it, right? Two, you're going to be late. You've got a meeting to go to. Your boss has already been upset with you over something else. You are in the red. You're frustrated. You're mad. How many of you have had that happen and you don't feel quite like yourself until lunchtime? And then you start feeling a little bit better. That's that 4 hour window that I'm talking about. That's the science piece to all of this. Most folks who know me know that I'm really not into anything foo-foo. So if you had come to me about emotional intelligence, about breath work and yoga and all this, I would have not been about that at all. I was presented EQ all from a neuroscientist, and it was all factual. And it's what your brain is doing, what your body's experiencing physically, and then a result to performance. So as we're looking at the red and yellow, the green, optimal performance, we want it like this. We want it to be green. So for players, basketball players, this would be 5 of 5. You are in the zone. You are in the flow. This is going to be 3 of 5. That's what you should shoot with the shot that you're taking. In my mind, if you're not 3 of 5 in our practice environment, you shouldn't have taken that shot in the game anyway. And the final here is the red, which is an 0 of 5. You started the game 0 of 5. So if you had to put kind of shot percentages on it, you can get a better idea. So this is the flow, this is the green, this is happy, this is smiling, this is right. And then this is how we should be as we come into every single day, right? We should be right in here. The difference is too many of us are red and green and red and green and red and green, and we don't have that kind of middle stability. So this training allows you to be there and to get green when it's time to get green. And I would offer athletes techniques that would increase dopamine. That's why you're so addicted to social media. That's why you're so concerned with how many likes you get, how many comments did that post have, how many retweets, because that recruits dopamine to your brain and it's an addictive component. I offer techniques to athletes and to coaches to prepare in things that your brain likes with the 5 senses. So it may be things you're listening to, it may be things that you're looking at to get you ready for elite performance. I've asked the athletes that are on the broadcast, how many of you are warming up for your basketball game? And at the college level, we get 30. High school level, you get less than that. So you basically train 365 days a year, college level, for 30 opportunities. At the high school level, 20, 18, and you're in warm-ups. And you're like, not really that into it. Or I feel funky. Or I don't feel ready to play. Think about it. How many times as an athlete you approach competition and you did not feel really ready to perform? Well, that's where we get into the temperature stuff. Elite performers leave nothing to chance ever. If you work your tail off year round, 365 days a year for 30 opportunities to be an elite performer, then how in the world, when it's time to be an elite performer, aren't you ready to be an elite performer? Oh, okay, well, I need to drink a 5-hour energy to do that. I need to drink a Red Bull. That's fake. What I'm telling you is you can do this naturally. You can do this where there is predictability, and you can become an elite performer when the rest of the competition is still doing it the old school way. You can be an elite performer when it's time to be an elite performer. So whatever it is that God sprinkled you with, and we're about to talk about recruiting, some of us were sprinkled with less and some of us were sprinkled with more. Some of us just understand how to use it better. Some of us don't utilize what God gave us. I'm giving you techniques. I am giving you strategy in how to attack the mental side of the game with you individually. So when you get the ball in your hand to hit that game-winning shot, that you are the most confident, prepared person to take advantage of your opportunity. And coaches, I would even bring this up to you. Are you nervous in timeouts? Are you nervous standing in front of your team? These same techniques can get you ready to perform when, guess what? That's why you get paid the big bucks, right? To draw up the right play and make the right decision in game time situations. So I'd love to open it up. I know I have ran my mouth and that's what I do. And I do it really, really a lot. But I want to open it up. If anybody's got questions about that, I don't want to dive too deep and geek out on everybody and bore you. This is kind of my passion. No, it is my passion right now because I coached a lot of great players that I think had we had these techniques when they were playing, that we could have just maximized their abilities so much more. And so now I'm a junior college coach, and we do this with our team. The first 2 weeks of preseason, we don't even pick up a basketball. The first 2 weeks, all we're doing is mindset training, mentality stuff, and the ability for them to understand how to be an elite performer. Because if I ask everyone listening, who wants to be an elite performer? No one is like, oh, not me. I don't want to be an elite performer. We all want to be an elite performer. The difference is some of us are only willing to do things that elite performers do to become an elite performer. So it's one thing to be able to do it physically. It's a whole nother thing to commit to the science behind it, the nutrition, the hydration, and what I would challenge you is the mindset behind it.
Good stuff. Can you hear me now? Am I back on? You still can't hear me? You still can't hear me? I don't know what's going on. And you still can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
I got you. I got you. Yep, I got you.
I'm not sure what happened, but I figured it out. I'm not trying to show my age. Coach Macy, that was some good stuff. So we can go ahead and switch gears and get more onto the recruiting side. If you want to go ahead and open it up, or I can start with some of the questions that we had.
Well, let me just give you a general overview of kind of how I see recruiting. Is having been at each of the levels, there are major differences between Division I and Division II and Division III in junior college. There are major differences. And the biggest one that I could say is Division I athletes have the innate ability to strain. To strain meaning they're willing to do a little more in the workout, another rep in the workout. They have some level of intrinsic motivation. And the ones who don't stay at that level that long, because it is absolutely an every single day test of your will and spirit. And so you don't do that by just your talent. You do that because you've got this drive that separates you from others. And then you have this ability that the competitive index is really, really high. Now, what I would tell you is I coached at a Division II level that the athletes were incredible, right? I mean, one of the top Division II conferences in the country. And the upper tier teams have some of those same characteristics. Then you start looking at, is there more balance? Are athletes more interested in being involved in groups and in clubs and those kinds of things? Then you start looking at the different levels of what you'd like to do, or big time internships, or going over to take international trips relative to academics. And then you start getting into this little sweet spot that I'm in right now, which is a developmental school. So you're looking at, does that athlete need physical development? Do they need to get a little stronger? Maybe they need to get a little bit of weight off. Does that kid just need to understand how to eat right, or how to go to bed when they're supposed to go to bed and get up when they're supposed to get up? And the things that 18-year-olds do when they go to college that they need some development on. I mean, regardless what level you go, Division I, II, III, junior college, it doesn't matter. There are going to be adjustment periods. And the key is, do you go to a place that if you need help structure-wise, when to get up, when to eat, where to be on time somewhere, you just need to make sure that you're at a place that is understanding of that and can help you through it, versus a place that goes, this is what you should have known before you got here. We don't do that here, right? Which is the reality of what can happen. But that also makes a difference of how they grew up and what structure was in place at that point. And then I would say levels of self-discipline. Those kids with higher levels of self-discipline, you don't have to be reminded. You're told once and you're where you're supposed to be, right? Because what's going to happen at the higher levels is just going to be less reminding. It's going to be less, I've told you that's what we're going to go do, because there is correlation between what kids are told and reminded to do off the court, and then how many times you've got to talk to them about setting a screen, how many times you got to talk to them about sprinting the floor hard. There is correlations in my mind into some of those. Self-discipline to me off the court is self-discipline as well once they step onto the basketball court. Okay, so let's open this thing up, because I know we've got some good questions out there.
All right, so I have a few here, Coach. So the first one that I have is, since you won't be watching players in action, what do coaches want to see in workout videos from athletes this summer?
Okay. Don't expose yourself until you're ready to. So I see players producing video and their skill set's not where it's got to be yet. So sometimes it's better to work in private than it is record every single time you go shoot hoops. And, you know, it's like if you don't put it on your Instagram, it doesn't count. Well, it counts, and let it count twice, y'all. Stop with all worried about getting this thing videoed. You want to get yourself to the highest level of fitness that you can possibly do. You want to get yourself to the most optimal speed in running every drill, and then be efficient in your movements. So you don't want to take 2 dribbles when you could get there in 1 at the college level. Like I see it all the time. You're given drills that you're doing layups, and I'm going, if you're not elevating outside the lane on your layup, then that is not a college level play, period. If your foot is in the lane when you elevate, I'm talking about you're at least to the block and you're accelerating up and through, then I'm immediately going, well, that's a transition thing that I'm gonna have to teach them how to do, right? We've got to, because you could do it, you're just not at that point yet. So I'm gonna say this. I get you want to send video out. I get all that. Don't send bad video out. Don't expose yourself when you're not ready to be exposed. Get yourself trained and get yourself ready. And then sending the video, I think sometimes what's the best way to do that, because coaches do get inundated with videos. What about this? Call them or have your coach call whoever it is that's helping you through this process. Have them call the coach that you're interested in that school and say, here's who I am. Here's who this player is. Can I send this video to you? Right? And now you're talking. Now you're a person instead of just sending these blank emails out. And then don't send them to places that you aren't considering. So I'm from North Carolina originally. I basically coached in the Carolinas my entire career. If I'm a player coming out of high school, I probably would be wasting a lot of people's time sending my footage to a school in Montana. I'm not going to Montana to play hoops. So why in the world would I be sending video to Montana? So keep it specific and understand, hey, that's a level I'm interested in. That's a location I'm interested in. That fits what I want academically. I really like that coach. I really like how they play offense because, listen, it's online. You can go online and educate yourself, parents and players, on these universities, how they play, the footage with what now has happened with their social media. Go to that college social media account. You can watch them play. All of their games are streamed online. So as much as you want to educate them on you, also educate yourself on their program.
That's good. Definitely. That's good, Coach. All right. The next one is, it seems like Twitter is an important communication tool used in recruiting. How important is it for student athletes who want to be recruited to be active on Twitter?
I guess active relative to what you're putting on there makes a difference. So I would be aware, just as an adult, if we are on Twitter for our professional work, then I would make it professional. And if you want them to know what your name is, then your real name, Heather Macy, is going to be part of my Twitter handle. It's not going to be hooping it up. Because now I, as a coach, that I'm getting all this video and all this footage and I'm following all these kids, I'm like, which one is that? You know, I'm like, wait, how old was she? How, you know, so I would also be aware, is that your recruiting page? And are you aware of what you're putting on social media? Because I do think it does hurt kids as much as you're using social media with your friends. Once you become to where you want to be an elite athlete, there's going to be sacrifices that you're going to have to make. And I would say probably that's going to be getting off of social media more, putting a basketball, putting a book in your hand, educating yourself, and using the time that you would surf and mess on Snapchat or social media or post pictures of yourself working out. Reverse your thought patterns and utilize your time that's going to produce dividends. It's going to pay you in the long term with the investment that you're making. So the Twitters and all of that, and you can get caught up in the hype and who's saying what, who's doing what. What I've learned is the best players are the ones that aren't really advertising themselves that much. The best players are hoopers, you know, like they just want to work and they want to play. And the kids I've got still playing pro, they like to play. That's what they want to do, is they want to play versus promote. But that just fits me much, much better. And I think it's important players undersell and over deliver. You know, you don't want to sell a product just like if you're buying it on Amazon and it arrives and you, whoa, that's not what I thought I bought, right? So undersell, over deliver, and then everybody's going to be happy in the long run.
Coach, that's a great point right there. Definitely. All right. So the next one is, what if someone verbally committed before the pandemic, but now they've changed their mind?
Why in the world would you change your mind in the middle of a pandemic? A, mom and daddy about to lose their jobs potentially, or get laid off or something wild, right? 2, can't visit any campuses. So how are you changing your mind? Because maybe you've got another place and you just made a bad decision, right? Or maybe that coach lost their job or there's something like that. But otherwise, guys, you're in the middle of an unprecedented situation in the entire world. People are losing their lives. People are losing their livelihoods. You've got a full scholarship. The majority of people have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt when they come out of college. You're talking about potential to go to school for free. You don't decommit when you're potentially going to school for free. And especially during an unprecedented time like this. So maybe assess why you chose that place in the first place. Has something better come up? Maybe is a different conversation. But no one's visited any campuses, and no one is meeting anyone face to face. And talking like we are right now, or on Zoom or FaceTime, there's nothing like looking somebody in the eyeball in the same room and being on that campus with your feet walking where your feet would be once you're there, to know for sure in your heart that this is the right place. And I mentioned it at the beginning. You get 4 years to do it. Pick the right spot. I went to a school, I stayed there 4 years. Anisha, you went to a spot, you stayed there 4 years. We have great legacies at those places. I'm in the Hall of Fame. I think they're about to name the gym after you. I don't even know. They're doing, every time I look around, they're honoring you for something.
No, so, I wish.
That's what I hear. I heard it's coming. So the point is go to a place that you're invested in, and they're invested in you forever, not just during that 4-year period of time, and where you can leave your mark. I think it's special. So for me right now, we have players coming to SMC for a year, because my financial advisor gave me this well before the pandemic, but he gave me this piece of advice, and it applies. You do not make long-term decisions on short-term problems, right? So we're in the middle of a pandemic. You don't make a long-term decision. You don't commit to a 4-year school right now. That's a long-term decision. This is a short-term intermediate problem. So why would a kid come to SMC for 7 to 9 months? To give you some time, buy you some time, so that you can make an educated decision, get back on these college campuses, meet these people face to face again, and then get the proper guidance to be able to make a decision where you can go, and you don't have to talk about transfer portal, and you don't have to talk about any of those things. I had a kid ask me the other day in the recruiting process, Coach, if I come to SMC for a year and then go to a 4-year school, then get in the transfer portal, will you help me? And I go, why would we be coming here a year to get better prepared and educated to pick a school that you're then now having to transfer from? Then I'm not doing my job, what I need to be doing. I need to be talking to these coaches for our kids. I need to be matching them up, getting them to the right fits. Now, when I talk about fit, if I'm coaching a kid who I know she has no interest in working, she's just really talented, a piece of it for me to put her to a place that's not going to get exposed, that coach, they're having them come to practice for an hour and a half and that's it. They're not messing around, extra workouts and extra this and extra that, that she's good enough to go play there with nothing extra. Then that'll be a match. She'll love it. Coach will love her. No problem. You've got to understand what that coach is about, and you've got to put athletes in those places that fit, not just because it's a name, or not just because it's close to home or whatever. You've really got to look deeper. Now, those factors can come into play big time, but you've got to look deeper into fit of who the human being is and what that they really need. And parents, you need to look at your kid and go, a little immature, needs some time, not ready, because you're living with them. I mean, when you live with someone, holy cow, I got to remind her to brush her teeth. She's 18 years old, So who your child is. Pair them up with the right coach, with the right institution, and at the right level. Because ultimately, we want the people we love to be happy, right? Because I'm telling you, that Twitter post where you put I'm 110% committed, well, 24 hours, that thing's old. You're the one's got to put those shoes on, and you've got to walk it. So do not get too caught up with all of that. Get caught up and happy.
Yeah, Coach Macy, I think you made a really good point right there. And I think a lot of times, it's a stigma around going to a junior college, because the stigma used to be, that kid is dumb or whatever the case may be. But like you said, some of these kids, 17, graduating, 18, going to college, they're not ready. They're not ready for a big name school. They're not ready. So it gives them time, whether it's 1 year or 2 years that they do at the junior college, it gives them time to develop. It gives them that, that push that they need to just kind of get into an everyday routine. So that way, when they do go Division 1 or Division 2, they're ready. And so I think you speaking on that, and, for a lot of parents that are on that are listening in, maybe that, kind of jog something in their brain. Like, maybe let me really think about my kid. Is my kid really ready to go to a big school or whatever the case may be? Maybe they do need some time to develop, because what you don't want to do is for your kid to go to a 4-year school or a Division 1 school and then end up having to leave that school because they weren't ready. So.
Right. So I want to speak to that a little bit with some.
Am I there? Okay. With some education on this, you don't have to stay at a junior college 2 years. You can go to a junior college for a year if academically you're a qualifier. So I think that's important to address as well. And you need to go to a junior college if you choose to do that. One, like what we're doing, we are literally a developmental program. My role is to help these kids go to great 4-year schools, not to win the championship. Now, we'll win and we'll be successful because of the way that we do things. But see, my ego isn't so caught up in championships and winning like it was earlier on in my career, because it definitely was attached to that. So I would just say to keep in mind, your kid's a qualifier. You could go to a junior college to understand if they are structured to develop, if the weight program's where it needs to be, the nutritional component, that you're getting extra reps. Academically, does it just help teach your kid how to have proper study skills, time management skills, versus putting them in developmental courses or things that will never transfer to a 4-year school? I mean, at SMC, we've got 4-year academics. We've got strong academic program and facilities and a coaching staff that can get kids where they want to be. So for me, this is a real sweet spot, because you help kids on the front end and then you help them come back out on the back end. I don't want to make it an SMC recruiting presentation, but I would just say that JUCO stigma. I was a Division 1 coach, Division 2 head coach, and I recruited a ton of junior college kids because we had little gaps in our roster where we wanted kids that had played 30 or 60 college games, because they already understand a lot of the things that you need to know at a 4-year school relative to pace, relative to, forget it. I mean, if you're sitting in a zone in your entire high school career, and now all of a sudden we're showing you 6 ways to negotiate a ball screen, and you come in and don't have any idea, your head is absolutely blowing up. So you just need to be honest with yourself. I think if you're honest with yourself, then you'll better match with the right school at the right level.
Yeah, I think, Zakia, she just made a comment down below and said, the high school experience could also be a factor in the choice of school. Some programs just don't prepare kids for the rigor of Division 1, which is very true regarding high schools.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. But you know what? When you know better, you do better. And people sometimes just don't know, and they're doing the best that they can. And then, there's some people out there who want to attach to a kid, and they're throwing out advice to an uneducated family. And they're acting like they know. And if you look at these people's backgrounds, they didn't play college sports. Some of them didn't go to 4-year schools at all and have degrees. And then they're telling you that you shouldn't go there. You should wait. Right? And giving you all this advice. A family maybe once goes through the recruiting process. I've been fortunate to coach a couple of sisters. Twice they'll have gone through it. But most families go through it once. I go through it 5 times a year with families that we sign. And so I attempt to to try to educate them on, I'm educated in this process. I understand this process. And so in some of the education that the players get at SMC, some of the kids that we just signed, I'm like, stop, take it down. One kid, had a conversation with her and her family, and they were like, we never thought of it this way, but it was so true. She had committed to us, but she had some, I'm going to call them bad offers. Okay. Her goal is to play Division 1 basketball. And she had some low Division 2 offers that she had posted on her Twitter, like, thankful to be offered a scholarship by so-and-so school. Thankful to have my 6th offer from so-and-so school. And I said, I want you to go back and please take all that down. And logically, here's why. If in a year or 2 years, I'm going to call these Division 1 schools and promote you and sell you and talk about your growth and development, it is a stigma if you've had these bad offers. I mean, you look at it, if you get a really good offer, you might get 5 really good offers because it's so ridiculous that people are offering because someone else offers. You know, if you had a friend at a certain school and you got them to offer, you might have 5 or 6 in that same league. But I would just say, be careful that your ego doesn't override your business decision. And so now we're not going to have to look back. This kid's a qualifier. So 7 or 9 months from now, I think she's good enough to be picked up, you know, maybe a Big South level or something like that. And so I don't want that school, that recruiting coordinator, to be on her Twitter and scrolling back through and be like, hold on a minute. The only offer she had out of high school were NAIA schools, you know, or you know, bad Division II programs. So you want to be cautious that you're not promoting and actually promoting things that's going to hurt you as we progress and go down the line. So I will tell you this. We had a kid, and I'm so proud of her. She was with us for 1 year, and she played Division III basketball her first year. She came with us, and she was so committed to her nutrition and her training and her regiment, and she really bought into all the mental side of what we're doing. And, I mean, she dropped 19 pounds. I'm talking like significant amount of weight loss, just committed to her body and committed to the science that we preach behind all of this. And that kid signed the best Division II, in the best Division II conference in the country. And she played D3 hoops her first year. So, I mean, it is huge success can come out of it. But, you know, I'll be honest with you. She goes, is it going to hurt me stigma-wise that I played at this Division III school? And I said, maybe. You know, I don't know. You know, I guess it just depends. But her production on the court was such. And she had some stigma. Like, hey, I'd seen her play in high school. She's a little chubby, maybe a step slow. And they come and watch her at our practice and look at film and watch her in our games and go, I can't even believe it's the same kid. So we were able to push through those barriers and maybe some of those stigmas. But listen, don't create your own stigma, right? So you want to put stuff out there less for your ego and you know, and more for things that keep you motivated for the future and what could be ahead.
Right. Coach Macy, you hit on something that, I mean, we could talk about for days, so I'm just going to touch it just a little bit, but just getting advice from people that just sometimes don't have a clue, don't have your best interest at heart. And I see it so many times with these young athletes, for me, female basketball players, because, you know, that's really who I tend to deal with, a lot of the young girls that I mentor. But, you know, they're getting pulled from this way, that way, this way. They really don't know who to listen to. And they end up making a bad decision based on this person that they really trusted, that, you know, that they thought was good advice, but it really turned out to be bad advice. And then they're 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, or whatever the case may be, they're regretting that decision that they made. And so that brings me to a good point that Javora just asked. And Javora, actually, I met Javora Whitfield also at the combine that I met you at in Greensboro. And so her question is, how should an athlete choose a school on their list, basically?
So talking about the people who have say-so in advising, keep your circle small. If you've got a kid that you know has a potential or a goal to be able to play at the college level, keep the circle small. And then start paying attention who starts jumping in because the newspaper article, or they got a write-up somewhere online, or something happens and people starting to latch on. Keep the circle small. And then when you go and ask advice from people who already have the t-shirt, right? Like if you're about to go and run in a marathon, right? I don't want to ask somebody who's only ran in 5Ks. I'm going to go ask the people who've been in the Boston Marathon, what's that like? How do I get better prepared to go do it? So see the experts, find the experts, and then listen. You know, people who are giving you advice, sometimes you just got to let it go through here. And people who give you good advice, you need to jot it down so that you can remember it. So you've got a list of schools now, and now you need to make decisions on what is best for you in those situations. The recruiters are really good. It's like going to the car lot, right? And they're selling you that car, but you've already done your online research. You need to be an educated party in this decision. And you show, if you're educated by the questions you ask, that you have researched it, that you wouldn't go in and not know that coach's background. Where have they coached, their win-loss record? And so if you go in because your high school coach tells you should ask that coach how many years they have on their contract. You can see that online. Why are you asking that question? You can read about that, right? So again, I wouldn't ask questions. How was your season last year? Well, that's online. You should already read that. So you could frame questions more like this. Coach, I know you're going into the last year of your contract. We're concerned about that because one of the reasons we want to come to this school is you. Is there any word? Are you going to be here through our 4-year period? Would be a better way to ask that question. Or, coach, you just signed a contract, or coach, you just got to that school. You're a big reason that we want to be here, right? Just let them know that if that's the case. And then if it's the win-loss perspective, you go, hey, listen, I know you just won 10 games last year. I'm highly competitive. I want to be an elite performer. 10 wins isn't going to work in my career. What's it look like? What do we got to do to win in this league? How can I help us win in this league? With just better ways to frame questions in an educated format. And so when you would then get those answers, and listen, I see parents all the time sit in my office and I'm giving them the answer and they're nodding like, then I stop talking. So I got this advice. This is hilarious. Men and women, we listen differently. So if you're talking, if a man's talking to you, right? And so you've got a head coach and he's a male and you've asked a question. And if you start doing this, they think you're rushing them. So women like for you to listen like a hammer and men like for you to listen like a nail. Like straight. I know it's crazy, but it's a communication skill. So when you ask someone a question, be aware of, are you listening or are you just hoping to hear what you wanted to hear? Listen closely to how they say what they say. And jotting notes is normal. I go to the doctor's office. Listen, I had a serious health issue come up for me. And the best advice I got, and I thought it was solid, don't write the notes in your phone because they think you're not paying attention. Take a notepad with you. So I took a notepad to the doctor's office. I asked a question, topics that I didn't understand with verbiage that was well above my education. I just jotted it down. So can you spell that for me? Okay. Because when I got home and wanted to research it, I wanted to make sure I was researching the right thing. Well, it's the same me relative to the medical profession. Is some of the high school parents and kids relative to the college process. Write it down, research it, and become educated because it is a very important decision.
Definitely. I think that's good. I think we'll do, I think we have 3 more questions and then that'll be it. Okay. So the next question is, what if someone is a senior in high school and they were being recruited prior to the pandemic, but aren't getting any offers at this point? Like, what advice would you give to that kid?
Well, it's tough and it's an unprecedented time, as we all know. And there isn't an easy answer to that besides going back to, let's not make long-term decisions right now. Slow down your thought process. Maybe go back to people who you know, who maybe reached out to you early on and you go, I don't want to go to that junior college, right? That's not your first option. Maybe go back to those people or think back to someone that you had talked to early on in the process that you really did like and trust, call them. But I would probably say the number one thing is do not choose a school that you have never walked onto their campus. If you have not put your feet on that campus or met that coach in person, I would tell you that going to a 4-year school and making what should be 4-year commitment to a place, that's going to be super risky.
Definitely. That's I tell parents that all the time. I know back when I was in, I think you get 5 visits or whatever for, 5 official visits. I'm like, use all those visits. Get those perks that come with those visits. That's one of the things that I think, I didn't have anyone that got me through that process when I came out of high school, but I didn't do any visits. I went to Augusta State. Coach Wilson came down, sweet talked me, and I'm like, hey, I'm staying home. So, but it wasn't a bad decision, but I'm just saying I didn't give myself an opportunity to go visit other schools. So, I always try to educate parents and kids, like, don't shortchange yourself. Yeah, you think you want to go to that school, but that may not be the school for you. So go on those official visits. Go and talk to those players. Go see what it's about on campus, because once you get there, you may decide this is not where I want to go. Or that car ride might be a little bit too long. You're like, yeah, I think this is too far to be away from my parents. So think people just need to really, like you said, just don't make such a fast decisions, So
Well, I want to say this. I mean, you were a Division I basketball player that chose to go D2, and that's okay. And you might want to stay at home. And I want to tell the kids out there that's okay. But in your situation, in my opinion, or even in the Mealing sisters situation, now those are two kids I coached at Francis Marion, and I'm going to tell you something. They're D1 players. There is no question. Both of those kids were D1 players. I had the privilege of coaching them, and we won a lot of games with those guys. But they're D1 players. And when you have an opportunity to be in an elite class at the Division I level, you take it, because life is different, and your whole outlook and your trajectory when you finish as a Division I athlete from an employer standpoint, they know, teamwork, discipline, structure, because not everyone can play and sustain the rigors of Division I life. So I appreciate you having this forum, and I think some of it comes from you've seen yourself and other players in that area who are Division I level talent, maybe taking a different route. Not wrong, nothing wrong with the route, but a different route when life could have been a little bit different for those guys.
Definitely. All right, Coach. Last two questions. How often? This is from Barry Smith. How often have you recruited an athlete from a summer last chance showcase?
Only if I was in a desperate situation, meaning had somebody transfer, emergency spot. It's always better when both parties are in agreement and want each other versus, I'm desperate, you're desperate, it's last chance workout, I'll take the first one that comes along. Typically does not go over well as far as I can see for the long term.
Definitely. All right. And then the last question is from Coach Michael Sweeper, who is my VP and my assistant coach for the Georgia Soul. His question is, how much does an academic resume and extracurricular activities play in the recruiting process?
I guess that depends what level you're coaching at. So I would say at the Division III level, it's going to be impactful because it probably helps with the package that they're able to put together from the academic, and they want to see extracurricular. They want to see that you're diverse. And they want to see that that you can bring value to their campus. So I would say Division III probably makes a big difference. It's not going to come into play at the Division I level. Division I level is going to look at your SAT or SAT score and your GPA and your core courses, and you're good enough, right? And that you've got the talent and you've got the drive. And then Division II is that kind of like in between area, So I think at just like at Division I, now they've divided it to the Power 5. Level. Division II is the same. I mean, you want to say that it's Division II, but it's not. They're not all created equal. They are very elite and well-funded Division II programs, and they're very poor and low competitive Division II programs. So you've also got to understand that depending upon the school, conference they're in, and where they are on that stick will make a big difference as well. And I would say the same with the junior college. Not all junior colleges are created equal. We're a Division I junior college in the state of South Carolina. Hard to find, not around every corner, okay? And so we should be competitive at the national level. Typically, you think junior college, you go to Texas, you go to Kansas, you go to Florida. Well, guess what? There's also one in South Carolina that's going to be pretty daggone good for all these bordering state kids who want to stay close to home and still compete at a junior college level for developmental purposes to get prepared to go and be an elite performer at a Division I school.
And Coach, you guys were Region X champs this year, right?
We did. We won the championship. We won the tournament. We had a +11 turnaround, 21 wins, and the Region Player of the Year. So we got it rolling a little bit. And then the class we've got coming in, I mean, we've got players everywhere. So I'm excited about what the future holds, but it is literally just the beginning. Our sophomore class, we had 4 of them sign scholarships. So that was really the championship for me. I, want to stay focused on, we're going to win on the scoreboard, but when we win on signing day, that's when my goals really get accomplished.
That's awesome, Coach. That's because you're an awesome person. All right, so I do have one more question. I'm sorry, the person just messaged me and told me I forgot their question.
Okay.
So the question is, how much more important are highlight film for the 2021 class with spring and summer evaluation periods being in jeopardy?
if you're ready to be seen and evaluated, I think it's great. If your kid is prepared to be evaluated, I think send it. Get a ball, get out there and play. And if they're not outside hooping right now and they're watching Netflix and playing on their phone, don't send anything out. If right now, you're not in school, I'm seeing it right now. You'd be playing. And I'm seeing virtual trainings going on. I've been doing some virtual training, which has been amazing and positive. And so, again, I just want to stress, I think the video stuff is good. I think a lot of people are making a lot of money cutting up video of bad plays and attempting to make them look good. So just be aware of, yes, you need footage, but if your junior year wasn't very good, right? Let's spend this time spring and summer getting your game where it needs to be. And then let's just be really, really patient when that senior year hoops comes back around. Don't put footage out. Now you've lost 25 pounds and moved your game outside. Now you're shooting threes and have to fight through the stigma of, I was a little chubby and I didn't have range. Work on your game so that you're playing an expansive. Then again, the advice, once you get the footage out there, don't just blanket send it out. Send it out specifically. Narrow it down, especially if you don't already have some interest in some places. Be real intentional with who you send the video to.
Good, Coach. So it's two types of kids coming out of this quarantine. What are those two types of kids, Coach?
They're the ones who are ready and who are prepared and who have tuned themselves up to race out of the quarantine. And there's the ones who are a little stiff. They're the ones who need to be tuned up, who aren't ready to go and attack it. And it's going to take them several weeks. It may take them several months to get out of that state of mind, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So the best thing you can do right now, you're seeing people grow and you're seeing people wilt away. Be the ones right now who are growing in every area, mentally, physically, emotionally, grow and mature. Because, I hate to be so direct about it, but Arnisha, it's just true. Life's hard. Life is hard. And so I think the quarantine will be separated with two types of people, those that eat and those that get eaten. And so you want to make sure when you're coming out of this that you are coming out strong and ready and fired up to attack whatever challenge is ahead of you.
Coach, that's some great advice, and I really appreciate you today for taking the time out just to help educate, athletes, their parents, and just giving us, some good advice today. And I really appreciate you taking the time to do that today.
I'm always 2 feet in with you, always, girl.
Definitely. So we have 2 feet in, 2 feet forward. We have it in the comments. Also, Coach Macy's website, we put it in the comments. KJ, Kenny put those in the comments. So if you want to contact Coach Macy, you can contact her on Twitter, Facebook, go to her website. She's always available for speaking engagements, coming out for your team. She's always putting on basketball clinics there in Spartanburg. So she's definitely a great person to connect with. And I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. All of our healthcare workers, we want to say thank you for all you do. Essential workers, we need everybody to stay safe, wash your hands, and just be safe during this time, and just let's continue to come together during this time. I've seen some really great things during this time, and I just think that coming out of this quarantine, we need to just continue to do the things we've been doing while we're in here. So Hoop Scoop, straight from the soul, with Nisha Wright, special guest, Coach Heather Macy. Thank you, love you.
Thank you.
All right.